Make no mistake about it, President Trump delivered one of the biggest 2A wins in history.
Yeah, but we know what we have. Isn't that nice? It's true.
And even though it's not everything that we wanted, we got the NFA tax bill reduced down to 0 for suppressors, SBRs, SBSs, etc. But now there's a senator out of New York that is looking to reverse that and not just bring back the $200 tax on you, but way more. Now, if you don't know anything about this story, I'd love to hear some guesses on just how much you think this senator out of New York wants to charge you for your suppressors, SBRs, SBSs. And this is unlikely to pass right now, but I want to talk about the implications because really this is a warning shot to everybody that votes next year and, of course, 4 years from now, especially when it comes to the NFA. There is now a light shined on this, and we're going to talk about the implications in the future and, things you can do right now to make sure that this tax does not go back through. As a matter of fact, there's actually a pretty easy answer to this. Now again, I want to hear some guesses. How much do you think this senator is looking to charge you for suppressors? How much do you think his new tax rate is going to be? Don't Google it or anything like that. Just leave your guesses down below. I think that'll be kind of fun. And of course, whatever your opinion is of this video, this topic, leave that down below as well. Let's go ahead and jump right in. Okay, so hopefully you got your guesses in. Senator Chris Murphy out of New York now wants to tax you not 200, not 500, not 1,000, not 2,000, not 3,000, but $4,709 for each suppressor that you buy here in the future. Now you may say that's a really odd number. Why $4,709? Well, when you go back to 1934, that $200 tax stamp back then was actually the equivalent of $4,500. And he's probably done the math in the past couple of months and said, oh, well, we actually need to add a couple $100 more to that. So essentially what Senator Chris Murphy wants to do is adjust it for inflation, take that $200 tax stamp, and now move it into 2025 or today's pricing. So just like everything else out there, including groceries, homes, insurance, etc., that we have to pay for now, he wants you to pay even more for you to exercise your rights. Now, I said Chris Murphy is actually out of New York. He's actually out of Connecticut, so that's my bad there. But it's pretty much the same line of thinking for a lot of the politicians up there. And unfortunately, gun owners in this part of the country are caught in that political crossfire. And so you see a lot of people in these states that have their rights restricted just because of senators like Chris Murphy. Now, this guy has made pretty much a career out of going after you and your rights. Anti-gun legislation going all the way back to Sandy Hook, probably way before that, I don't know. But he's a part of the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act. He's filibustered, I think, in 2016 and 2013. Essentially, he now wants to price you out of your rights. Remember, in 1934, a lot of people, they couldn't buy suppressors. $4,500, you're talking about a decade's worth of work pretty much at that time. And that's essentially what they did. They priced a lot of people out from the 30s all the way up to, pretty much like the 70s and 80s really out of being able to buy suppressors, SBRs, all of that kind of stuff. That was the point. We're not getting rid of guns, right? We're just creating a financial barrier to you and your family, while a lot of these politicians make way more than what their actual annual salaries suggest. That's a topic for another day. But he's not going to stop there. He also wants to make AOWs and that registration process go from $5 to $55 just to keep some consistency here. Now, essentially what he wants to do is tie it to the National Defense Authorization Act, which is an upcoming bill which is essentially the same plan that a lot of pro-gun organizations want to use to get the NFA removed completely. I'll talk more on that here in a minute. But it's basically a political trap in saying, hey, we're going to tie this to this spending bill and get the taxation back into this spending bill. So that way, come January 1st, 2026, the $0 tax will be nullified. But here's the problem for Senator Chris Murphy. This is super unlikely to pass. First of all, the one big beautiful bill just passed removing the tax. Plus, going into an election year, 2026, if they were to pass a tax of $4,700 on gun owners, you would see some wild repercussions when it comes to the ballot box next November. And here's the thing, Chris Murphy knows this isn't going to pass right now. I truly believe that. What he's doing is testing the waters. And I think what could happen in this situation, is just a guess of course, is if you have a high profile shooting that the media will absolutely exploit, and somebody uses a suppressor or an SBR after the tax has been removed, that's when you could see more push for the tax to be reinstated, especially after the midterm elections in 2026. Now, will you see Republicans cave if something like that were to happen? It's a possibility. We've seen it before. But if Democrats hold the House and the Senate, reconciliation bill comes back around, they know they only need 51 votes. They don't need 60 at that point. You could absolutely see this thrown back in. So here's how you eliminate this issue altogether. First of all, you got to keep up with what these guys are doing, what they're voting on, what they're bringing up, and especially when it comes time for voting. Every single election cycle is crucial. But in the short term, what we can do is make sure that we keep the pressure, and I don't know that we really have to as much, but GOA stays on top of this stuff. FPC, those guys are great. But keeping them pushing to remove the NFA altogether. Not just the tax, but getting it completely removed. It's time to put in a new law and remove the NFA once and for all. Keeping your representatives in the loop. Telling them, hey, Senator Chris Murphy's idea is absolutely crazy. We all know that. The chances of it passing are going to be slim to none, but we need to push for the NFA to be removed altogether. It's so outdated, and people know now, right? It protects your hearing. It's an important firearm accessory, right? It keeps noise levels down for everybody involved. It reduces recoil. It's used in so little amount of crimes, like even less than what the AR is. And you've seen how much push there's been to get rid of that gun, even though it's used in a heck of a lot less crimes than what the media would like to portray, or like you to think at least. Because remember, even if you don't own a suppressor, you could care nothing about this. One item goes to the next because they start with the lowest hanging fruit. If we can make the AR look bad, which they certainly have, suppressors, only crazy people buy that. At least that's how they like to portray it. Look at Hollywood, you're going to have all these assassins just popping up everywhere. They can absolutely attach it to ammo, mags, guns, etc. We got to get this changed, man, because a temporary win on a $0 tax, that's fantastic. That's a fantastic start. But at the end of the day, it will not fix the issue. In a couple of years, you'll just see this come right back up. And we're going to be right back to where we started with all of this. There you go. There's my opinion. I'd love to hear yours. Let me know what you think down below. If you like what I do, consider subscribing. See you in the next one. And as always, hold them down.